For more, let's welcome in Texas Congressman and a member of the House Armed Services Committee and a U.S. Air Force veteran, Pat Fallon. Congressman, good morning. Great to have you back on the show.
Good morning, Rob. Thank you.
Congressman, I just want to get your take on what Vladimir Putin is doing here. It's a Friday. A lot of people step away from the news, typically over the weekend. Do you think his goal is to take Kyiv or to take the entirety of Ukraine? And I also want to add to that, has Putin permanently, he's almost 70 years old. Okay, so this is a legacy play, we know that. But has he permanently, for the rest of his life, isolated himself from the international community?
Well, Rob, in part, to answer this last part first, I hope so. Because the last person to invade the Ukraine, Rob, was named Adolf.
Right.
And this is the biggest land invasion we've seen in Europe since World War II. And Putin, you know, he was asked once if the Ukrainians and Russians were brothers, and he said, no, we share the same soul. So he's never really looked upon the Ukraine as a sovereign nation. And it's clear, I mean, Putin also said that the demise of the Soviet Union in the 20th century was the greatest geopolitical disaster in the last 100 years. He resents the verdict of the Cold War.
Wow.
He's obviously a megalomaniac. And thousands of people, if not tens of thousands of people, may die, and the world economic situation is going to suffer to satisfy the goals of this one despot.
Yet, as all this happens, Russia remains the third biggest oil supplier, ahead of Saudi Arabia, to the United States. You're an Air Force veteran. I'm wondering what kind of resistance you think the Ukrainian people will be able to mount here. Do they have a chance, or could they be, you know, like the Afghanis were during the 1980s with Russia, could they be the X factor?
I think they are the X factor. And, you know, there's such thing as a Pyrrhic victory, a very costly one. And we've seen some protests, not many, but some protests in Russia. And I'm almost saying again, Rob, the Soviet Union, because this evokes that, like the evil empire type of thing. But if the Ukrainians stand up, there's 44 million people in that country.
Right.
And they fight and they inspire the world. And world opinion gets, I mean, it's hot right now, but I want it white hot. I want people to be furious across the globe, because this is essentially an economic siege, and it's who's going to blink first. Putin's betting on the fact that the West will blink before he has to.
That's a great point. We saw an image of Dallas, Texas, not far from you, where they had a massive building lit up with the Ukrainian flag. We've seen a lot of solidarity with the Ukrainian people on social media as well. What would this resistance look like? Are we talking, you know, harken back to the Second World War, hand-to-hand combat in the street, resistance networks, underground resistance networks? I think of maybe the French resistance in occupied France during the Second World War. Is that what we could be facing?
Rob, the Ukrainians are tough people. They took on the Nazis. They had to eat 4 years of the greatest military machine history had ever seen and ran them over. And, you know, they were, you know, you got to remember what happened there during occupation. If a German soldier was killed, they oftentimes just hung 100 civilians randomly. And these people endured that, and they fought. And Stalingrad's not all that far away. We know what happened there. If it gets to be hand-to-hand combat in the streets, and the world is a very small place now, and the world's going to watch this, and we're going to see it with all the technology we have now. And, you know, the images of, let's say, God forbid, a 17-year-old girl, you know, lying dead in the street, killed by a Russian soldier, those images are going to be burned and seared into the memories and into the hearts of people worldwide. And Russia will be, you know, if you're a pariah and you act like one, you got to be treated like one.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you break it, you own it. Putin's broken it. I don't think the Ukrainian people are going to let him own it. Congressman, great to have you on. Hope to have you on back next week. I know the Texas primary is coming up early next week. Big, important day in the Lone Star State. That's Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.